Hi, everybody. I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show. I'm going to turn off the speaker on that other computer. I'm Skip Alzheimer, and yeah, we watch old 16mm films, and that was a cornet film, but it was the raw footage, and it was from the film Trip in an Airplane. But I don't know if you noticed, like there was a weird kind of after image. I don't know if the compression streaming took it out, but basically what's happening was the film was on a reel, on a core, actually, and it was, I feel like it was off-gassing or making an impression on the base of whatever it was touching. So what you got was this weird ghosting effect that kind of changes and moves. We've noticed this with some of the Kodachrome. When it starts to break down, it starts to sometimes it does that, and I think that's a certain version of Kodachrome that does that. So and I think this was kind of bluish. That's what we find sometimes. These films, when they begin to break down, they shift blue, which is very different than Ektachrome, which shifts red. All right, so what do we got? Lots of films here. Let's learn about The Trail of the Buffalo. That's my assistant, Ryan, sneezing in the background. So, Gesundheit, Ryan.
The American bison, usually called the buffalo, is the largest animal native to the United States. Once, throughout most of America, there were millions of these animals. Nourished only by a diet of wild grasses, the male, or bull buffalo, may weigh more than 2,000 pounds. The female, or cow, is smaller and weighs several hundred pounds less. They spend their days roaming the flatlands in search of food. America once had many thousands of miles of rich prairie grasses that provided food for the great numbers of buffalo herds. Most of these wild buffalo were killed as the frontier was pushed back and settlers moved west. A century ago, only a few hundred buffalo survived. Today, in healthy numbers, they are protected. They live mostly in large animal parks, where they graze throughout the year. Buffalo live together in groups called herds. In spring, the herd seeks out fresh grass at the edge of the woods. They stay away from the thick growth of trees, drifting along to where the grass is green. In springtime, they shed or molt their winter coats. Then they're often bothered by biting insects. Birds eat the insects. And prairie dogs help too. Buffalo like to graze near prairie dog villages. Prairie dog hills are good for taking dust baths. Rolling in the dust relieves the buffalo's itch. But they destroyed the prairie dog's burrows, which were the work of many months. The little animals must now repair the damage done to their homes. Like domestic cows, buffalo eat and swallow a lot of grass. Then they bring it up into their mouths and chew it later, standing still for hours. This is called chewing the cud. Most calves are born in May, some in June. The mother's milk is very nutritious. Within 3 days after birth, the calves are strong enough to move with the herd. A buffalo calf grows fast and is soon able to eat grass. Gradually, its hump begins to appear. By the time they are 9 months old, the calves are independent from their mothers and stay together in a group. Living near the buffalo are burrowing owls. They build their nests in old prairie dog holes and rear their young below ground. Late July and August is the rutting or mating season. Bulls compete against each other for cows. The bulls try to prove their strength. The owls must keep a wary eye on the bulls. The owl knows he could get trampled. He might have to move. Usually, the bulls do little damage to each other. The stronger bull wins the cow. As summer turns into autumn, their hair grows longer, and their manes become thicker to keep them warm. Eating rich grass along the riverbed puts fat on their bodies to protect them from the winter cold. Even in winter, buffalo continue to search for grass. A buffalo does not paw the snow to find food. He uses his head as a snowplow. Sometimes living 40 years or more, most buffalo can survive even hard winters as long as they can find food. They have nimble feet to cross over stones and ice, with the strongest leading the rest of the herd. Their yearly round of life continues as it always has, largely unchanged.
So idyllic, pastoral is maybe the vibe. Everything is nice and relaxing. Something I can sit and drink some delicious coffee, delicious Folgers coffee. As I slowly greet the day, learning about the prairie dogs and the buffalo. Um, yeah, guaranteed to put kids asleep if they watch this after lunch in a dark, warm room. Yeah, so behind me I have a film scanner set up, and we've got a film. The title's been clipped, but we'll watch it anyways. This is Don't Get Angry. I think that's what this title is. All right, enjoy.
Understand what happens to us when we get angry. It all started in the park when Susan and her sister Carol and their friend Priscilla were having a good time jumping rope.
You missed! I did! I said I did! I saw you! It's not your turn anymore! It's Priscilla's turn now! You take her in! I will not! You stop turning and made me miss on purpose! My turn! It isn't Priscilla's!
The argument with Carol made Susan very angry. We all have arguments once in a while, and it's natural to get angry. And so, when Carol refused to give in, Susan quit the game and went home. Susan nestled down on the soft couch and tried to forget her anger. But somehow her feelings of anger didn't go away, and Susan could not read or think of anything she wanted to do. The trouble was that Sue's anger was still bottled up inside of her. She felt as though she were bursting with unhappiness. Rid of her anger. Let's listen to what she has to say to Carol.
Susan, may I borrow your tennis racket? I want to play with Priscilla. No, you can't use anything of mine. Not ever. I'm so mad at you.
What's the matter with you?
She's angry because she couldn't have her way when we were playing jump rope. She didn't play fair.
Oh, now, wait a minute. Let's talk it over. Susan, tell me all about it.
Gradually, Susan is getting rid of her anger. Angry feelings should be gotten rid of one way or another, but always without hurting someone else. Let's leave Susan and her family now and see what made Paul angry and what happened to him.
Oh, I bet this plane will fly for 5 minutes. Better fly longer than Pete. Hey, be careful there, Eddie. Don't break it. That's Pete. Boy, wait till Pete gets here. We can take him out and fly him all around.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Pete. Look at the planes. Aren't they wonderful? Come on, let's go.
I'm not going to fly planes today. I'm going to play ball.
But you said we'd fly our planes.
I said I would, but I changed my mind. Besides that, Jack said I could play first base. We can fly planes tomorrow.
You're a heck of a guy. First you promise, then you break your promise.
Oh, so what?
That's a dirty trick.
The broken promise and disappointment have made Paul furiously angry. Things like this happen to all of us, and we're pretty likely to get angry. For a moment, Paul stopped and thought about going to the gym, where he hears Mr. Jackson working with a punching bag. But then he decided he didn't feel like going to the gym or like watching Mr. Jackson. So he went home. Like Susan, Paul, he could forget his anger. But the more he thought about Pete, the angrier he got. You can see he didn't feel much like playing baseball, like fun. The anger was still in him. He felt thoroughly upset. Perhaps we can understand better how Paul felt if we understand what happens to all of us when we get angry. It's as if suddenly many parts of our body work harder and faster. We feel great excitement. Hearts beat faster, and the blood seems to rush quicker through the body. Sometimes a lot of blood rushes to the head. Our face gets flushed. Sometimes blood rushes to the stomach. Anger makes us feel sick all over. Sometimes we clench our fists or bite our nails. Often we feel as though we were like kettles filled with steam. The angrier we get, the stronger the pressure inside of us. Like the kettles, we must find some way to let the pressure out. When Susan got angry at Carol in the park, she got all stirred up inside. And when Paul got angry at his friend Pete, he too felt as though he were boiling over with anger. But when Susan went home, she didn't let her anger out. And Paul made the same mistake. You can see that Susan and Paul would have felt better if they had found a good way to let the steam off sooner. Because it is important to let out our angry feelings, let's think of some different ways of getting rid of them. One way would have been for Susan to tell Carol right away that she was furious at her. Then she might have gone on turning the rope and waiting for her turn to jump. Perhaps Susan would have jumped so hard that she could have jumped higher and better than she ever had, and the girls would have admired her for doing so well. Or Susan could have looked for her mother as soon as she came home and told her all about her trouble. Talking difficulties over with friends, parents, homeroom teachers, or the coach are good ways to get rid of anger. If Susan had tried any of these ways, she would have let her anger out and pleasant feelings would gradually have returned. Susan then would have soon forgotten her troubles and gone on playing. Now, let's see what Paul might have done to get rid of his anger. When he passed by the gym, he might have entered. And then...
Hi, Mr. Jackson.
Hi, Paul. Boy, it sure feels good to get the old muscles loosened up again. But I thought you were going to be flying your model plane this afternoon.
We were, but Pete ditched me.
Well, how'd that happen?
We were just about to fly our planes when Pete decided to play baseball.
Baseball. Here, Paul, you want to hit the bag?
Had Paul started talking to Mr. Jackson as soon as Pete left him, or even decided to punch the bag, his disappointment and anger would have dissolved, and he would have begun to feel better right then. Perhaps as Paul pounded the bag, he might have thought it was Pete. Every swing was a swing at Pete. Do you think that would have helped Paul get rid of his anger? Anyhow, with his feelings taken out on the punching bag, Paul may have found that he wasn't angry anymore. That evening, Pete telephoned Paul to apologize for changing plans without talking first with Paul. He knew that he'd been wrong. When Paul told him how angry he'd been, Pete asked if he could come right over and work with Paul on their airplanes. So they had a good time together after all. There are other ways, too, of getting rid of anger. For instance, see what Eddie is doing? He is getting rid of his anger by drawing a picture of his aunt, who a few hours before had scolded him. His mother isn't home yet, so he can't talk to her, but he can make a funny picture of his aunt, and that makes him feel better. He's having so much fun drawing the picture that he forgets all about his anger. Perhaps you, like Carol, can imagine dreaming up a story about animals or people that would help you get the anger out of your system. All these are good ways to get rid of anger. They free us so that we can start having fun again. You see, the important thing is to let out our anger in some active way, by running, or jumping, or hitting the punching bag. But we must be sure that we don't hurt or make others angry. Because if we remember what happens inside of us when we get angry, we'll be more careful about making others angry. And perhaps, too, when we get angry, we'll think of the best ways to work our anger out of our system. Can you remember some of the good ways that helped Susan and Paul get rid of their anger? What would you have done if you'd been Paul or Susan?
I wish I had a better copy of that. Maybe one day I will find a better copy that's not so beat up and complete. I have I really like footage of kids getting mad. And this is related to the show that I'm doing at Lump Gallery tomorrow, 7 o'clock, downtown Raleigh, which is Anatomy of an Adult Tantrum, which we watch little kids who grow up into adults and have temper tantrums. So that's an in-person show that we're doing. And I've shown some of the films here on the streaming show over the last couple of years. So anyways, we learned about anger and being mad, but let's learn about the roots of happiness. This was made by the National Institutes of Mental Health, and kind of talks about how you raise a happy kid who becomes a happy adult. Enjoy.
Run, Juanito, run. It is midday and you have important business. A school is a time for refreshments, for jokes and laughter. It is a time for quietness, for pleasant games and gentle amusements. It is a fine day and school is out. It is a day, Juanito, and you have had your lunch. But your father is hungry. It is for this reason you run, leaving behind the games, the amusements. Run now for the food your mother has prepared. For also may eat and rest and refresh himself. This is the story of Juanito and his father Juan Tomas Garcia, and his mother Maria, his sister Petra, his little brother Jesus, and the baby Conchita. This is the story of a part of the United States, the island of Puerto Rico. The story of the people who live on that island. This is a land where many live by farming, where a man's living comes from tobacco or coffee or citrus or sugar. Whatever the crop, the work is hard, the sun is hot. The work is hard, the land is poor. It is difficult for a man to earn a living. This is the story of how people are, how they act with each other, how they are happy and contented or miserable and afraid, the problems they have. Island, the land itself, the poverty on the land, have much to do with the nature of a man, a woman, a child. But the nature of people, the way they are, grows out of other things too. It grows out of the feelings a man has. The way he feels toward the men he works with, toward his wife, his children. This is a story of some of those feelings that men and women have. How those feelings affect the children, how they help to mold the way a child grows, the way he develops into a man, the kind of man he will be. It is also the story of children and how they feel, and what the feelings of a child may do to the man or woman that the child will grow into. A child learns to be a man by playing, by imitating in his play the things men do, the way grown-ups act. They pretend to be men because it makes them feel good inside. It makes them feel more like the grown-ups they admire most. They show off as if to say, see what a man I am going to be, and this is good. Because it is in this way that a child learns to be a man. But sometimes, without knowing any better, the child imitates only the bragging, unhappy part of a man.
Que macho.
What a man. But is that being a man, a real man? Sometimes a boy never becomes a man because he never stops pretending. But not every boy must just show off. Juanito can play at being a man by sitting quietly and enjoying the company of his father, Tomas. Every man wants his son to grow up to be a true man, and his daughter to marry a true man. But who knows if this will happen? Too often the boy will become a turkey, a peacock, a fool. And the girl who loves such a man may become a disappointed, unhappy wife. But it is possible to grow a true man, just as it is possible to grow a seedling into a fine tree. So a young boy can be cultivated and grown into a full man. A child grows much as a tree grows. Children and trees alike grow for many years, during which they gradually realize the promise of their nature. But they need to be nourished and fed, cultivated and protected in order to reach their full growth. It is true that trees may grow to their full growth, to maturity, without care. But with the wild trees, many young ones are crowded out, never reaching their growth. Others rot and die before their time. And so it is with children. They will have a better chance to flourish, all of them, if they have room to grow and are cared for and loved, especially when they are small. Like a tree, a small child needs a friendly, congenial climate. A climate which comes for the child mainly from the warmth of the parents' love for each other. But even the older children flourish in such a climate. A child needs deep roots, firmly planted in a strong feeling of family. Such a child, grown to manhood or womanhood, is better able to face the storms and droughts of adult life. But let us see how a man can grow his trees and his children. What a man and his wife can do and be to help their children or their trees best fulfill their own nature. When Juan Tomas plants trees, he picks the best soil he can find. A man and his wife are themselves the earth from which their children grow. But this earth is made up of more than just the bodies of the parents. There are other things in it, difficult to see, with which we nourish our children. There is an inner strength and dignity and gentleness that can flow out from a woman who is happy and content with her husband. With such a quality in her, a woman can love children, all children, more warmly, more freely.
De cuántas hojas bordan el suelo, ya de los lirios.
The children who are raised in an atmosphere in which there is love flourish and are fortified by it.
Verde palmar, ya del soberbio verde palmar.
There is the respect that a man may have for himself. This too can fortify those around him. For when a man truly respects himself, when he feels deep inside without having to think about it, I am what I am, no better and no worse, and I find it good. Such a man sees the true value in each person around him and accepts it as good. And because such a man and how he feels has a strong influence in his house, each person in it, even the very little one, feels also that he is of some value and importance. All of them can feel deep inside without having to think about it. I am what I am, and I find it good, because my Father finds it good. The man who understands trees or children can be firm, but he can also be patient and gentle. When a young child is old enough to dig holes, it is useless for a father to get angry and say, "Don't dig." He would not say to a tree, "Don't grow." A wise parent understands that playing is part of the growing of a child, part of the business of learning how to be a man. Young trees and young children will need careful attention for a long time. A wise man never plants more trees than he can care for. Fewer trees, well spaced, properly cultivated, will grow better than many trees planted too close together. It is a foolish man who brags, "Look how many trees I have planted," forgetting that he may not be able to care for them properly, forgetting how much water young trees need. The care of boys and girls continues even when they are almost fully grown. It is a different kind of care when the child is older, a kind of care that can help a girl like Petra in her effort to think and feel and act by herself, more grown up. One way young children learn to be grown up is by imitating, in their play, the things grown-ups do. The older ones learn in the same way. But what they do is not so much imitating, not so much play. It comes very close to living the way grown-ups do. At this age, boys often feel that they have to show that they are really men already, proving to themselves, to the girls, and to other boys that they have already come to manhood. For the girls, too, this is a time of testing, of proving. Every teenage girl likes to flirt because it makes her feel more of a woman. Sometimes this proving of manhood is, for the boys, merely showing off with false words of flattery. A girl can flirt but still know the boy is not saying true things. She does not have to go with just any man who wants her. She can know when it is time to say, "You are not yet a man, my friend. You only think you are." But not everyone can be so lucky as to understand these things. If there is no happiness in the home, if there is too little love and understanding and respect, then a young girl or a young man may leap impulsively into marriage with anyone, desiring only to escape the misery of the parents' home, to grasp for pleasure, to feel important. Such a marriage, born out of desperation, made without thought, can doom the young man and woman to a life of unhappiness. A tree cannot have deep roots in a hard, unfriendly soil. A child cannot have healthy roots in a house full of anger. Sometimes children retreat from anger into themselves, into a blind, hopeless apathy. Such a child cannot flourish. Sometimes children can build a refuge of warmth and love for themselves that will protect them from the anger in such a house. But a child must do something to escape anger. He cannot live with it. It hurts too much. And sometimes he will defend himself from anger with more anger, with defiance. For some men, turning an angry face to the world is a way of feeling important. Neither for his son nor for himself can such a one be a true man. There has not always been anger and hatred in this house. The constant disappointments come because each expects from the other more than he or she can give. Too many children, too much fighting, too much anger have made of this woman a nagging, bitter wife, and of the husband a selfish bully. This is not just one of the little squabbles of everyday married life. This twisted, crooked kind of anger is bad for a man, bad for a woman, bad for children. And the children in such a home may try to escape the anger, perhaps before they are old enough, by doing just what their parents did, marrying in haste, without thought, without understanding, without love. But even in a home in which there are love and understanding, there can be serious troubles. A man who desires his child to grow straight must understand that each new step toward manhood must be encouraged. But this is sometimes difficult, especially when the new things the child has learned outside the home are unfamiliar to the parents. It was just such a new step when Juanito brought home 2 rabbits one day. His father was full of doubts. Who will eat rabbits? Why raise animals that are good for nothing? It is hard for a man who has never eaten rabbit to have his son tell him that they are good to eat. It is hard for a man to accept learning new things from his son. The boy is very stubborn. He acts as if he were the man of the house. The boy says he learned about rabbits in school, that they are good to eat and cheap and easy to raise. And besides, he will take care of them all by himself. It is hard for a man to let his son win an argument. It is hard, but a man must do it sometimes. He must let the child take new steps when he is ready. That makes him even more of a man. No one would think of preventing a tree from growing. Neither should one prevent a child from growing. The physical growth of people and of trees is reached one day. But there is another kind of growth with people that need not stop. For there is possible in the hearts and minds of men and women a growth in experience, in understanding, in maturity. To raise a real man, one should be a real man. So strong in the feeling of his own worth that he does not pretend to be something he is not. He can be a good son to his parents, does not have to prove that he is a man. They know it. He can be gentle with his children. They too know he is a man. He has knowledge of himself and respect for himself. And for this reason, he does not have to be a bully or a braggart to make himself feel content. This is what makes a true man. And it is possible to help a child grow into a true man or the wife of a true man. And it is possible for the young people to understand how the children they will someday have may also be helped and cultivated and loved, so that they too will be true men and the wives of true men. In such a home, children can have more patience and understanding toward each other, for they have learned that along with the pleasures of love, there also should be the patience of love, the consideration of love, the understanding of love. They know that all these things go into making a true man. They know it because they see it in their daily lives at home. They know it because they see it in the way the grown-ups act and feel toward each other, in the way their parents act and feel with them. This man has planted well and cultivated well. His trees and his children will be able to lead stronger and happier, more useful lives because of the care he and his wife have given them. This is a story of people and how they are with each other. The story of a family. What being in a family can mean to each person in it. May there be peace and honor and happiness for them all in the years to come.
So, the fact that it's a Latin American family is interesting. I unfortunately the title was missing, and I want to do a little bit more research. But I feel like this was part of the Bureau of Inter-American Affairs. We showed a film from that yesterday. I think it was in Spanish. It was about birds. But there's a series of films that were made to be shown to developing countries in Mexico, Latin America, or Central America, and South America. Part of the, I believe, the Monroe Doctrine to try to take care of all the countries that were below us because we felt like we were the ones that wanted to protect them, basically protecting them from foreign entities like communism or whoever taking over. Maybe an excuse to exploit the natural resources. But so this film is trying. It's trying to be progressive, actually. But boy, it lands hard and wrong in a weird way. But I do like the turkey, a peacock, and a fool. And it's all about the man and then the woman making decisions based on that. But wow, holy cow, an amazing film. I would love to have seen this remade for featuring a waspy couple. Because it's just fascinating to me. All right, I'm trying to get this film to set up here. Yeah, it's still not working. Trying to get the scanner to get the tension right. But in the meantime, so that last film that we watched was Don't Be Angry. And so basically I rehoused it because the can that it was in was very rusty. And the reel itself was also super rusty. And if we touch a film, I kind of want to try to fix it. So we put it in a archival can. If you notice, this is plastic. It's kind of an inert plastic that doesn't off-gas. And you see that there's slots. And does anybody want to guess why there's slots in the can? You can post in the comments, and I will tell you if you're right. But so we write information like on the can. Did it on the Black Magic. We showed it as lunch. The film itself was very red, which is why I reduced the saturation, and the title was clipped. And then here's who made it. Don't be angry. So that's what we do when we're not showing films. In the meantime, let's. We're almost done, but I'll let this film will run long. It's Introduction to Holography. Enjoy. Actually, I'm going to interrupt this film because I got this other film working, scanning. So I'm going to do that. Crap. Hold on. The holography film I have already as a file, but I really wanted to transfer this film. Really trying to transfer at least 2 films, scan 2 films a day, if I can do it. But this is just being... Yeah, it's been an annoying thing. So, all right, here we go. We'll go back to holography. Sorry. I was trying.
This is a hologram. Holograms have little in common with traditional photographs, except that both use film. Holograms can create completely three-dimensional pictures, and every piece of the film can reconstruct the entire image. In order to understand holography, you have to understand something about waves. When waves meet, their effects are additive. When two crests meet, we get an increased effect. But when crest meets trough, their effects cancel out. This interference effect is important in holography. Here are two random sources of waves, not of equal amplitude or frequency. If we make a time exposure of their shadows, the image is completely washed out because nothing remains in place. Here are two pure wave sources of equal amplitude and frequency. Notice the areas of motion and calm in the water. A time exposure looks like this. As long as the frequency and amplitude of the two sources are constant, an interference pattern will be formed wherever they cross. These two speakers send out pure sound waves of identical frequency and amplitude. The microphone records areas of calm and motion. If we could see the three-dimensional interference pattern caused by the two sound sources, it would look like this. Light also travels in waves. What happens when two light beams cross? Interference of light waves should produce bands of light and dark, but we see none. In general, when two white light beams cross, no visible interference pattern is produced. A red filter will help to make the light monochromatic. Even this highly filtered light, however, is not monochromatic enough to produce a noticeable interference pattern. Let's examine the light source. While our water and sound waves are in step with one another, the light bulb produces light of many wavelengths, which are not in step with one another. This is the inside of a laser, a source of intense and spectrally pure light. The laser emits light waves more monochromatic than any filtered light source. We will use a laser to check for interference by passing its light through this optical device, which splits the beam in two. The interference should appear as bands of light and dark. Here is another demonstration using laser light. A partially silvered mirror allows half of the light to pass through while the rest is reflected. Where the two beams of light cross, we will place a film. Notice the camera has no lens. It is simply a film holder. This will be the path of the light. The film looks blank. But watch what happens when we remove the beam splitter, leaving only a single beam of laser light. The film reconstructs the original two sources from only one beam. How did this happen? Within the film emulsion, areas are exposed as light waves move through. Where the wave fronts cross each other, the silver emulsion is exposed. The developed emulsion is essentially a thick diffraction grating. Here is a microscope view of the processed film. To understand holography, we can think of the developed layers within the emulsion as a set of microscopic, partially reflecting mirrors. This film was exposed with two beams, interfering with a third. Now, by passing one beam through the film, the two other beams are reconstructed. If this car were illuminated with a laser, every point on it would reflect some laser light. This is how a hologram is made. Part of the beam is used to illuminate the car. We'll call this the object beam. A second beam, called the reference beam, shines directly on the emulsion and interferes with the light reflected from every point of the car. The exposure must be made on an absolutely motionless surface. Even the slightest vibration will ruin the hologram by smearing out the interference pattern. We will expose the film for about 10 seconds. The film looks blank, but through a microscope we can see interference patterns which bear no resemblance to the real car. Now, when the reference beam alone shines on the processed film, an identical image is reconstructed. Here is an explanation of what happened inside the emulsion. The reference beam from the left interferes with each reflected light beam from the car, creating an interference pattern. The emulsion simultaneously records all the patterns caused by all the points. Now, when the reference beam alone shines through the film, each pattern reconstructs its own object beam, and thus the whole car appears to be reconstructed. What would happen if the emulsion had been here, between the source and the object? In this case, the interference produces what is known as a standing wave pattern. These are standing waves. Therefore, if the light shines through the film and reflects back from the coins, there will be standing waves of light set up in the emulsion. Laser light will shine through the film and reflect back from the coins. An ordinary white light is used to view this hologram. why does white light reconstruct this kind of hologram? A cross-section of the emulsion looks like this. White light approaches and passes through the film. The mirror planes are spaced to reinforce only the wavelength used to make the hologram. Because the film shrinks in processing, the green color of shorter wavelength is reinforced rather than the red. Here is another white light hologram. When a laser shines through a hologram and onto a screen, a two-dimensional image is projected. Even a small fragment can project the entire image. Holography is an efficient data storage medium, which may soon outdate traditional microfilm. Here is a two-channel hologram. Two scenes have been recorded at different angles on the film. The channel is selected by tilting the film. The lens in the holographic reconstruction actually works. This is the principle used in microscope holography. A slide is placed in front of the final element of a microscope. Later, movable lenses will be able to act with the lens in the hologram, allowing us to selectively focus on any point within the slide. Through holography, structural flaws can be seen in solid objects. The dark lines show a stress pattern. By aligning the real object with a hologram image of it, a tap of the finger can be shown microscopically bending the steel. This circular hologram was made by surrounding the object with a strip of film. There are an increasing number of practical laboratory applications of holography. Here, the effects of heat are made visible. Even very subtle heat effects are clearly visible. Holography is in an early stage of development, similar to that of photography 100 years ago. Yet already artists have found in holography a new medium of expression.
All right, so I wanted to show you Miracle of the Bulb, but yeah, I couldn't get the tension to work, so I'm going to have to scan it on a different scanner and share it with you some other day. So Thomas Smith was the person who worked on this film, and he worked on several Encyclopedia Britannica films. And also, I believe, I've heard this anecdotally, he also worked for Industrial Light and Magic a little bit. Did some work for them, some optics work. So there you go. When I was a kid, holography was awesome. I really loved seeing it. Its implementation as of recent has mostly been on little credit cards with a little holographic little seal on it. But I'm sure there's more that's been happening with holography that I didn't know about. But it replacing microfilm, yeah, that didn't happen. I think computer data took over that whole aspect of it. But anyways, thanks for tuning in today. It was good to see some new faces in the comments. We will come back tomorrow, Thursday, and watch some more films. And yeah, thanks again. If you like what you saw, you can hit the thumbs up button, the like button, the subscribe button. You can also buy us coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks or go to patreon.com/avgeeks. And those are great ways to support us. But just telling people that what we're doing, that's great. And also showing up. That's also appreciated. So everybody have a great rest of your day. As a reminder, please rewind and love each other. This was something we found inside a film can. And it just seems like a good thing to do. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Take care.